All right, blessings. Welcome to Congregation Rehoboth today on Shabbat. As we celebrate the seventh day, we salute Yeshua HaMashiach and his glory and his authority, not just in the heavenly realm, but on the earth as well. And one day, that reality will be known by everyone, because the scripture says that every knee shall bow and every tongue shall confess that he is Lord. And so we're in the book of Psalm today, Psalm 38, and we're going to start in verse number 1. Psalm 38 and verse number 1. The word of Yah reads, by the way, this is a Psalm of David, and we don't really know why he wrote this or what situation he was in when he wrote it, what specific situation, but we can say that the situation that he was in required him to call upon the name of his Yah. And so we don't know specifically what was going on, but we can say that it may be your phone that's messing up, because mine is fine. Yeah. But we can say that whatever the situation when he was in, it was a situation that required Yah's attention. And we're going to get into this text really quick. Psalm 38 and verse number 1. O Lord, do not rebuke me, or do not correct me. Not just correct, but do not intensely correct me in your wrath. In other words, in your judgment of some things that I have been doing. I don't know why we think that we can do things against Yah and he's not going to be angry with us. It's a natural thing, even for humans, mere humans, to have that response. And if someone does something so egregious to you, you're not going to feel happy. It doesn't bring happy feelings to you. And so it is a natural response to have righteous anger. Nor chasten me in your hot, listen to how he describes it, your hot displeasure. Verse 2, for your arrows pierce me deeply, and your hand presses me down. Verse 3, watch this. There is no soundness in my flesh. Why? Why, David? How come your flesh? What's wrong with your flesh? Watch what the rest of the verse says. Because of your anger. Wow, that's amazing. That I can not only have physical effects on my physical body that come from a spiritual condition. Do you see that? So he's already upset with David because of his actions, and we're going to assume that they're some sort of sin. And so he says, don't rebuke me and don't chasten me because of what I've done, which I know has caused you to be angry and upset with me. But then this verse 3 is very interesting. He's saying, because of this spiritual issue that I have, it has a physical effect on my body. He says, there is no soundness, and he's very clear, in my flesh, in my body. He says, something's wrong with my body because I initially have a spiritual problem. Watch what the rest of verse 3 says. He says, nor any health in my bones. Now that's very interesting, because we know within the bones there are various things. There's calcium in the bones, but there's also bone marrow in the bones. Watch this. Bone marrow produces or helps to produce red blood cells. Now, what do red blood cells do? Yes, they do. They fight antibodies. They go to war school. They go to war school. And the reason why they go to war school is because there are things not only inside of our bodies, because we've put them there, but then there are things in the environment that we have no control over. Listen, I don't care what you do, chemicals are everywhere. And so he says, there is no soundness in my flesh because of your anger, nor any health in my bones because of my sin. That is, oh my goodness. So because of my spiritual disobedience, it can affect me physically. Do you see that? So in other words, everything that happens to us physically, I'm starting to think about my own life. Everything that happens to us physically doesn't necessarily have to be genetic. Say a little louder. Go ahead. What about? I could barely hear you. Well, yeah, they do deliver oxygen, but they also deliver fighters, things that fight against antigens. This is one of the reasons why they wanted me to, blessings. This is one of the reasons why they want me to eat more protein. This is one of the reasons why. Because it helps to build red blood cells, and those red blood cells fight against antigens. As a matter of fact, that was one of the medications that they've taken me off of. It's azithromycin, which is it helps your body to fight against antigens, but it's a synthetic. It's a synthetic drug that helps to do the job that your red blood cells should already produce in you. All right, so he says there's incidentally, let me mention this, that, and this all comes from man. This is very interesting. I'm glad I'm taking these classes. However, cancer, if you break it down, cancer is simply the result of certain cells not getting enough oxygen to those cells. Oh, yes. And so what happens to that cell if it doesn't have oxygen? What will happen to you if you don't get enough oxygen? You'll die, right? You look, there are two things that we need in order to have life. You need the sunlight and you need oxygen. You take those away, it's a done deal. The cells are the same exact way. And this is what brings on cancer. This is why cancer is reversible. Cancer is, you can, listen, we know people that have survived cancer. Yes, we do. As a matter of fact, my mother is a double breast cancer survivor. Yes. She changed her diet and she started eating better. And so the diet helped to deliver the proper amount of oxygen to the cells so that she could recover and stay cancer-free. I shouldn't say cancer-free, but not allow cancer to reemerge. Cancer is every single person has the possibility of cancer. Every one of us. It's not like cancer is something on the outside of us that comes inside. No, it's already there. Capability of cancer is already there. It depends on what you eat and how you take care of your body and how you feed your cells that will determine whether those cells live or whether they die and result in cancer. Yeah. So David says here in Psalm 38, there is no soundness in my flesh because of your anger, nor any health in my bones because of my sin. Notice the connection between spiritual sin and physical demise. So everything is not genetic. Personally, I don't believe anything is genetic. I don't believe that there's something in the mother's blood when it comes to so-called sickness or disease that she can give to the child. Because it's not just the mother, but it's the father as well. So today I want to talk about the attack. There's an attack on the melanated family. The attack on the melanated family. I got sources. I got information for you. I got information. I hope you're ready for it today. The attack on the melanated family. And I want to call your mind to one of the reasons of this lesson today is because if you look at the melanated families of the world, so-called Black, so-called brown people, especially us though, especially us, we have not been fruitful and multiplying. We're only 12% of the population here. On any continent, we're watch this, on any continent you go to, melanated, especially so-called Black people, are always the least amount, except on the continent of Africa. But on every other continent, we are the least. And also, you can look this up as well, we are the poorest. Remember when Yeshua said, the poor you will have with you always? Who's he talking about? Anybody that's poor? Absolutely. However, we are the poorest. And so go with me to Genesis chapter 1 really quick. Because I want to open this up and really deal with what's really happening to us today. Genesis chapter 1, verse 28. Because he gives us a directive. There's a directive that he gives us here. Can someone read that? Be fruitful and multiply. He told Adam, this is what I want you to do. Incidentally, we know from research that Adam and Eve were not Europeans. I'm going to say that proudly. If you know anything about melanin, then you will know that melanin has chemicals. Actually, melanin is a hormone which has chemicals that needs and uses the sun. Come on and go with me here. To regenerate melanin that's already in us. As a matter of fact, we are the only people who have this amount of melanin in us that does that. Europeans do not have enough melanin in them to have the sun. As a matter of fact, it's the ultraviolet rays that are used to regenerate what was intended for harm. This is how good Yah is. The ultraviolet rays that were intended for harm for humans, Yah created something in us, in the first people, to take what was intended to kill, because the sun was here already. He created man on the sixth day. So he created us knowing that the sun had ultraviolet rays, so that he put melanin in the first person to be able to take those ultraviolet rays and then turn something that was meant for harm to make it into good for us. Amen. Yeah. And so I pray that you would study this. Study about yourself. You should know about yourself. So he says to be fruitful and multiply. And so today I want to talk about fruitless and divided. Fruitless, and we are, as a people, we are fruitless and we are divided. Instead of being fruitful and multiplying, we are fruitless and we're divided. I have so many different sources to pull from. We can start off with one of the most tragic events that has happened to our people, that has caused us to be fruitless and divided, which is disobedience to the Torah. Come on and go with me. Yes, that has caused many of our people to be fruitless and divided. We died because of our disobedience. If you look in scripture, we can see that. If you look on the streets are running with the blood of our people, not others. We kill the best. We steal the best. We are disobedient the best. We're not just the best at sports. Oh, come on and go with me here. We're not just the best at singing. But when it comes to some downright, low down, dirty, shame stuff, we are indeed the best at doing that as well. We're the best at lying. Oh, yes. Yeah, we're the best at cheating. We're the best at all kinds of things. You can't say we're the best over here when it comes to sports, when it comes to business, when it comes to all manner of things, but then leave out the negative, sinful stuff that we are the best. We are the best at being disobedient from Yah because we were there from the beginning. The promises were made to our ancestors. And the reason why many of us, 99.99999% of us, have no idea what the scriptures are talking about when it talks about our culture and our heritage is because we can look back over years and years of disobedience by our parents. Those are the facts. And so we are the best at being disobedient to Yah. And as a result of that disobedience, you can read Deuteronomy chapter 28 and see all of those things that are happening to no other people on this planet. They are happening to us. But our people die because of lack of knowledge. We don't even want to read the history of our people because we believe that for somehow that this spiritual reality doesn't mean or doesn't matter. But let me tell you something. You can be an atheist and still have a spiritual connection, but your connection is not to the light, but it is to the dark side. I know I'm gonna get no hands on that one, but it's the truth anyways. And so whether you say that you are spiritual or not, you were created to be spiritual. You were created to have a connection and a desire to worship God. And if you choose not to worship him, you by default will worship something. So you are a spiritual being, whether you like it or not. But also, what has affected the Melanated family is not just disobedience to Yah, but also if we move ahead in history, we can look at the arranged marriages during enslavement. Oh, yes. Let me just read you something from this book called The Black Family in Slavery and in Freedom from 1750 to 1925 by Herbert Gutman. All right. You got to read, man. You got to honor the labor and the research of others. And so watch what he says. He says something very powerful and interesting. So he includes in his book, how many of you guys have heard of Alexis de Tocqueville? Have you heard that name before? He was a Frenchman who came to the United States to observe the culture during the 1600s and 1700s. And so Alexis de Tocqueville, after he did a massive observation on the culture of the United States during slavery, he came to this. He says this: there exists indeed a profound and natural antipathy between the institution of marriage and that of slavery. A man, watch this, a male does not marry when he cannot exercise marital authority, when his children must be born to be his equal. Well, what does that mean? Well, he observed that a melanated man was just a boy in the sight of his slave owners. And so the male child that was just born was a boy, just as the man who created him was a boy. It says this, irrevocably destined to the wretchedness of their father, when having no power over their fate, he can neither know the duties, the privileges, the hopes, nor the cares which belong to the paternal relation. In other words, there's no desire for a black boy to be a father and a husband when he looks out and sees his own father being treated like a boy. And as a result, you see our children today. You see even men today, well, I'm not going to marry until I'm 40. There's no desire to marry until they're, how dare you use our women up and use our good and fresh women because you have a sadistic desire to just hit it and quit it. So women, don't give in to that. Have more respect for your body, for the temple, for the queen and the melanated being of high status, the daughter of Zion that Yah has created you to be. Have more respect for that. Yeah, that's the conversation we need to start having with our daughters instead of talking about, well, what's your favorite color? What kind? How do you like your hair? Who cares if it's getting yanked out from the back? Come on and go with me here. Yeah. So he says this Alex de Tocqueville, this Frenchman from France, came and observed the culture during the slavery period. He says this, it is easy to perceive that every motive which incites the freed man to a lawful union is lost to the enslaved by the simple fact of slavery. And guess why? See, we can't even blame the white man for slavery. The reason why we were enslaved is because we were disobedient. Yeah. See, all of these things were brought on us because of our own disobedience. In other words, Yah used an individual group of people to punish. What did David say in Psalm? He says, don't rebuke me in your wrath, nor chasten me in your displeasure. Too late, David, because we've already committed the crime. How dare us think that we can escape the punishment? He says, no. But see, this is what we do with our children. They commit the crime. We say, oh, forget about it. We're not teaching them about the world. We're not teaching them about righteousness. We're not teaching them about scriptures. Stop being so soft and tenderhearted and teach the lessons that they should learn so they don't commit the same foolish errors that we committed. But we ain't down to do that. We don't want to do that. Because you know why? Many of us are just as disobedient as the children, and they'll look at us like, how you gonna tell me to stop when you still doing that? How you gonna tell me to come to church when you can barely make it? No. Facts. No cap. Facts. What else? What else? What else causes melanated people to not build families like we should, being fruitful and multiplying, instead of what we are as fruitless and divided? Is the fact that our own surnames, that our own last names still belong to somebody else's family. And that says something when you don't even have a desire to cast off your last name. You just accept it as a reality because you have no clue, many of us, about who we are as a people. And so we accept being named by another group of people. And every time we fill out an application, every time we go and we tell them, hi, my name is Mr. White. And they just as melanated as all get up. Do you know that they look at us and laugh? Because they know something that we don't know. That we don't know who we are. Surnames after the slave master. Women, you should refuse, you should reject to take. Well, nowadays, women say, well, shoot, I don't need your last name to be on mine. I could just hyphenate it. I want to keep my name and yours. That's not biblical. What are you talking about? And because women have this, many women, not all, they have this unhealthy mindset that's influenced by feminism. I should say fourth or fifth wave feminism. Yeah. That says you can't even bring your man a sandwich or he's being oppressive to you. Bring me my sandwich. Bring me my vegetable sandwich with lettuce instead of this freaking hydrogenated oil bread that we got. Also, white bread has so much estrogen in it. I'm going to get to that. I'm just going down. I'm preparing to feel. Just bear with me. Not only disobedience to Yah was a direct attack on the melanated family, and which causes us to be fruitless and divided, but also arranged marriages. I mean, I could get into these arranged marriages. But what Alex de Tocqueville in his observation was very poignant and clear, that when you don't have control over your own house, talking to men right now. Well, what do you mean control, Pastor? Well, he has the spiritual authority and mandate to determine the spiritual atmosphere in the house. That belongs to us. Well, why, Pastor? Why is it the male? Isn't that male chauvinism? No, it's not male chauvinism. What it is male leadership. Come on and go with me here. Adam was created first. The instructions was given to Adam not to eat of these trees, not to eat of any of the trees, or to eat of all the trees except the tree of good and knowledge, of the knowledge of good and evil. And it was his responsibility to educate his wife, Eve. Has that responsibility stopped? Yes, it has. Come on and go with me here. Yes, it has. Because now men are cut off at the legs when they attempt, many of us, to be the spiritual leader in the home. How dare you stop a man that's living godly, that's on this road, that's walking with Yah? How dare you cut his legs off? And then to those men who defer and abdicate the responsibility to the wife, how dare us? How dare us put that pressure on that woman, on that wife, to take on the load of doing a job that was designed for her husband to do. Yeah. Then we have what is called, you may want to write this one down. How many guys, this is the fourth one. How many of you guys have the four different things? The first one was disobedience to Yah, which was definitely causing us to be fruitless and divided. The second one was arranged slave marriages. The third one was surnamed after the slave master. And the fourth one, epigenetic inheritance. Do you know what that is? Have you heard of that? You know what genetic means, right? What is genetics? Epigenetic inheritance. Well, let's start with the one we know. We know what inheritance is, yes? What does it mean to inherit something? It was given to us. Okay, good. What does genetic mean? You don't have to give the textbook definition, but what's your idea of what genetic or genetics mean? DNA, biological traits that have been passed down. Physical traits only? Okay. So it could be, it's physical traits definitely, but what else? Emotional, spiritual, mental, everything that makes up you as a human being, watch this, has been passed down by the father and the mother, and watch this, has been passed down to every single child. Let me give you what epigenetic inheritance means. It is a parent's experiences that are passed down to future generations. Oh my goodness. You know what that means? That if a woman was raped, she passes that experience down to her child, even though the child doesn't have to go through that rape. Look at how important it is to treat our melanated young girls and women with the utmost respect, because they are going to pass down experiences that they've had. My God, I'm getting so angry, I'm stuttering. They're going to pass down the experiences that they've had to those children, boys and girls, and as a result, our children have to deal with the same trauma without the experience. Now, it used to be that we could say, oh, look at what the white man is doing to us, but we don't have to say that no more, because we got folk in our own family under the same roof. Watch this, all skin folk and kinfolk. Just because you melanated don't mean you my family. When you are treating me like someone off the street, where you shouldn't even treat them like that, but it definitely shouldn't happen to those in our own families. So the next time you go to call a young girl out of her name, the next time you go to call a woman or treat a woman or say something to a woman that is ungodly, I want you to think twice. Epigenetic inheritance. A parent's experiences are automatically passed down to future generations. Now, what if we inherited it from our parents? My mother grew up in what was described by Martin Luther King as the most racist city in America, Birmingham, Alabama. My mother would tell me stories of she used to babysit for white people, and she would tell me that she would have to run out of that house the moment she got there. Why? Because the perverted white husband chased her out of the house. Yeah. And when she would arrive back at home, and my grandmother would say, why aren't you there making that money? We need that money. You know, she couldn't say, well, he tried to rape me, because they needed that money. Why couldn't she go to the police? Well, they wouldn't have believed her. See, you gotta put some respect on the experiences that our parents had to endure before you form your tongue and your lips and your mouth to speak a word of disrespect. We got to think about that epigenetic inheritance. Because now, watch this. What are you passing down to your children? What kind of experiences are you willingly putting yourself in, watch this, that you are going to automatically pass down those experiences to your children? And listen, all I'm doing is, David said in verse 3, go back to, you want to know, well, where's the Bible? Go back to verse 3. He said, there's no soundness in my flesh. Now, let me get into what this soundness in my flesh means, so you can know why I'm dealing with being fruitless and divided. So let's go to Psalm 38:3. The word soundness want you to write this down too. The word soundness, matom in the Hebrew. It means to be incomplete. It means to be unfinished. Incomplete, unfinished, to be at an end, to be impaired, to not be upright. Physically. Hope y'all get my drill. Hope y'all get where I'm coming from. Watch this. To not be upright, to be finished, to cease. That's what soundness means. Because he says there is no soundness. So what does soundness mean? Soundness means to be complete. It means to be finished. It means to be not impaired. It means to be upright. But when there's no soundness, he says, within my flesh, I'm incomplete, I'm unfinished, I'm at an end, I'm impaired in my flesh, I'm not upright, I can no longer be upright in my flesh. I can no longer be upright in my flesh. Now, what does flesh mean? In my flesh. Basari. Basari. You know what that means? Basari, in my flesh. It means in my genitalia. I am no longer complete. I am no longer finished. As a matter of fact, I'm incomplete. I am unfinished. I'm at an end. Listen, in other words, my genitalia is impaired, David said. Oh my God. This is why I can't be fruitful and multiply, because I have no soundness in my flesh. In other words, my flesh is impaired. My genitalia on men and women is impaired. It's not working right. What do they call that today? ED. They're erectile. I can't be upright in my flesh. Oh, come on and go with me here. Oh, I'm going to get into this today. This is why there is an attack on melanated families, because we have, watch this, our own decisions have caused this attack. We've brought this attack on ourselves, but then at the same time, there's an outside force that's attacking as well. Oh, I'm going to get into that. I hope y'all ready for this. Oh, my goodness. Notice what Moses said in Genesis 2:20 through 23. And Adam gave names to all cattle, and to the fowl of the air, and to every beast of the field. But for Adam, he couldn't get his groove on with none of them. It says, and there was not found for Adam a helpmeet for him. And the Lord God caused a deep sleep to fall upon him, and he slept. And he took one of his ribs and closed up the flesh instead thereof. And Adam said, this is now bone of my bone, flesh of my flesh. She shall be called woman, because she was taken out of man. Let me say this. When the scripture says that you are one, you and your wife are one, the two shall become one, then we see Paul saying that you should not withhold what is due to your wife and to your spouse, unless you pray, come together in prayer, lest the devil have an advantage. Listen, let me say this. The mandate was to be fruitful and multiply. But what happens when the husband, when there's no soundness in his flesh? When, watch this, when his genitalia don't work. You cannot be fruitful and multiply when your genitalia ain't working right. Go with me to Hebrews. Hebrews chapter 12. Now I got to break you off with this one because, yes, sin can cause physical, I don't want to say deformities, but physical destruction. Sin can cause physical destruction. We saw that with David. But go to Hebrews 12, because not only sin, but there's something else. Hebrews 12 and verse 1 and 2. Now, here's a little Bible study technique. What is the first word in verse 12? I'm sorry, in chapter 12, verse 1. What's the therefore or wherefore, right? Whenever you see therefore, the writer is coming to a conclusion. So now, in order to find out, well, why is he coming to this conclusion? You got to back up. You got to back up. That is a huge Bible study how should I say, move that you should be aware of and that you should use. So what was happening in chapter 11? It is known as the Faith Hall of Fame, right? Look at chapter 11. He talks about all the different patriarchs that came before him that gave a demonstration of how to have faith. In other words, how to run and live this life in a faith-filled way. In other words, how do you live this life when everybody else around you doesn't believe in Yah? When everybody else is not walking according to the word? How do you have faith when your best friends are criticizing you for having faith? Easy, you drop those people because they're really not your friends. They're supposed to accept you for who you are, as long as they're not doing anything unrighteous. See, we got it all twisted. We'll accept people even when they do unrighteous stuff. That's not Bible. The scripture says this. It says, when it comes to the deeds of darkness, you know what we're supposed to do? Expose them. We so quiet about people in our family and friends, and we don't want to say nothing because we want to get invited to the barbecue. We don't want nobody saying, well, no, they talk about the word too much. Listen, I could care less about your barbecue because I don't eat meat, your meat anyway. I stopped eating that killing, cancerous, causing, I don't even want to call it food, that product. Oh, you think you all that because you just stopped. Yeah, I did just stop. Yep. I stopped. At least I stopped. Watch this. And see, watch this. That's not a sin if you are still eating meat. It's not a sin, but guess what it is? It's a weight, dog. It's a weight. Now watch this. Let's go to the word. Hebrews 12 and 1. Therefore, considering the examples of the past, we also, since we are surrounded by so great a cloud of witnesses. What happens when you're surrounded by a cloud of hope, but they're not great? When you look at your family and the examples that you see, they're not great. Because watch this. These are the examples that have passed on epigenetic inheritance. These are the examples that have passed on the examples for us to watch as we were in our formative years as kids, and we had our understanding of how life should work. We looked at them for those examples. But what happens when those examples are not great? As a matter of fact, they're horrible. When we're not surrounded by a great cloud of witness, but we're surrounded by a horrible, dismal, trifling cloud of witnesses. What do? Well, that's family. Yeshua said this. Who is my family? But those, we don't have enough courage to tell mama, you ain't right. Get right. And I'm not coming over until you do. Yeah, Yeshua said, yeah, I see them over there. But who is my family? Who are the ones I'm going to be with? Who are the ones I'm going to spend my time with? Those that do the will of my Father. See, people look at me strange when I check my mom. You can keep looking all you want because I'm not going to stop. You know why? Because I'm called. Now watch this. How do you think I'm going to talk to you when you start tripping? If I talk to my own mama and tell her, no, Mom, you need to forgive Tony, you need to forgive Michelle, you need to forgive all of these people that you did wrong. This is why you're going through the hell you're going through, because you won't forgive. See, that's how you got to talk to mama. Well, no, you can't talk to, well, why not? That's what I've been called to do. Expose the deeds of darkness. Watch what he says. Verse 1 still. I'm just walking through. He says, since we're surrounded by a great cloud of witnesses. See, here's another point. Let me make another point about this. Let's say your family is toe up from the flow up, and there's no great examples of how to live life. Then watch this. Find some folk that know how to live life and stop criticizing them. Stop bad-mouthing them, and then maybe you can learn something about life that could possibly help you. Because the only way you're going to learn how to do what the scripture says next is you're going to need to see people doing this. He says, let us lay aside every weight and sin. So watch this. I don't want to deal with the sin today. I'm going to deal with the weights. See, because a lot of people, and the reason why a lot of people left, I shouldn't say a lot. I just stopped. It was one family that left, but the rest I just cut off. Because you ain't going to talk to me the way you want to talk. And as a matter of fact, I ain't your pastor if you could talk to me like that. So be gone. But watch this. The reason why that family left was because I called out a weight that they didn't like. And I'm going to keep calling out weights. He says, lay aside every weight. Here's the point, though. And every sin that does what? That easily besets us. And watch this. It prevents us from running the race with patience, the race that was set before us. And it prevents us, watch this. I don't care how spiritual you think you are. I don't care what comes out of your mouth. But it prevents you, when you don't lay aside weights, it prevents you from running the race, and it prevents you from it prevents you from seeing Yeshua, who is the author and the finisher of our faith. Who for the joy that was set before him endured the cross, despising the shame, and is set down at the right hand of the throne. Yeah. Let me deal with lay aside. Oh, man. Apothemenoi. See, lay aside is in black and white, but apothemenoi it's in 4K. Watch this. Laying aside simply means this. You need to separate. See, we don't want to do that. See, we want to hold on to folk. We want to hold on to things that are weights. Apothemenoi say, no, you cannot hold on to this, but you, watch this, you got to cast it off. You got to put it away. Listen, babe, you got to get rid of that. Get rid of it. lay it down and walk away. Listen, to be very clear, stop. Apothameno. He said, stop. Apothameno is made of two words. Apo, the prefix, APO, the prefix. It means to separate yourself from the whole. See, we're not designed. See, this is very tough for teenagers. This is very tough for, I would not just say teenagers, but young adults, because that is the time where you are separating from your parents and you are clinging to a group who has a certain amount of authority that you allow them to have that your parents used to have. In other words, it used to be that your parents could talk to you and tell you this, that, and the other, but now your parents can't say nothing to you. We don't know nothing now. Separate, watch this. Apple means to separate from the whole. Watch this. But it goes even deeper. It says separate your union or your fellowship or be destroyed. See, we don't think that separating from weights will destroy us. We think, I can handle this weight. Have you ever been in the weight room and done bench pressing? Anybody? Have you ever bench pressed without a starter and the weight got too heavy? And that weight almost destroyed you? Well, the scripture says this: when it comes to believers or anybody, even unbelievers, if you don't separate yourself from things that are not necessarily sin, they're not sin, but they're weights, watch this, that will lead you to sin. Come on and go with me here. He says, you got to cut them off, cut it out, stop doing it, or be destroyed. But apothamenoi, the root word of themenoi is titheme. Titheme. It means to put it down, to lay it down, to set it on. Now watch this. It's the idea of a waiter or a waitress who comes with a platter to serve, and they put what's on the platter down. Listen, let me tell you something. You got a lot of stuff that's on your platter right now that you need to lay aside, because you know why? It's stopping you from the most important thing in your life, which is not your job. It's stopping you from the most important thing, believe it or not, which is not your marriage, but it is stopping you from having the best and ultimate relationship with Yah, so that you can be a good husband or wife, so that you can be responsible in your career. It is stopping you from running the race that Yah has given you to run. What is the solution? Lay it aside. No, it's not sin, but guess what? It's preventing you from running the race that Yah has for you. And it's also preventing you from seeing Yeshua, who's the author of our faith. So here's how it works out in a family. Because the husband is laying aside weights and sin, or the wife is laying aside weights and sin, but the spouse is not. So the one spouse who's laying aside this stuff, they have more. In other words, let me just say it like this. If you're eating low vibrating food, come on and go with me here. Then your vibration, in other words, then your connection to Yah is not going to be as strong as the ones who's laying aside all the stuff that they should be laying aside. So now watch this. The one spouse speaks from the perspective of laying aside and being closer to Yah. What do you think the response of the one who's not laying aside is going to be? Huh? Oh, I know I'm in the house tonight, today. I know I'm all in the house. See, this is why if you're looking for a relationship, you should have high enough standards. And then watch this. This is why you got to be true to what you believe, or you're just simply deceiving people. If you believe in Yah, let it be known. Stop being ashamed of what you're being true behind closed doors in. Everybody coming out the closet. Transgender, homosexual. All kind of folk is living proud of what they are and ain't afraid to say it in your face. But here we are behind the door. I believe. That's why I love it when I see students who say, yeah, I go to church. Yeah, I read the Bible. What about it? But because we're too busy people pleasing, we don't have time to please the one who really matters. You better check yourself. Watch this. What did Paul say? Let's go to 1 Corinthians. I want to show you this about running this race and why it's so important to lay aside weight. Go to 1 Corinthians chapter 9 and 24. Now, I want you to picture this. I want you to picture how crazy this would look. I want you to imagine David and Joe, they just finished playing football. Now, David and Joe, how would y'all look if y'all took your full uniform with the helmet and the cleats and you walked into the gym? Like, I'm ready. Let's ball, dog. Let's go. They would look at you like you were crazy. But what would you have to do to not look crazy? Start having to lay aside all that weight. So watch this. The picture is of an athlete, actually a track star, because during this time, you got to remember, during Paul's time, there was the Olympics. Oh, yes, the Olympics in Rome, yes. And what Paul was drawing from when he said this, let's look at 1 Corinthians 1. I'm so busy talking, I can't even get there. Did anyone get it? 1 Corinthians 1? 1 Corinthians 9, sorry. 1 Corinthians 9. Verse 24, sorry about that. First Corinthians 9, 23 through 25. Actually, through 27. I'll keep going to 27.
Know ye not that they which run in the race run all, but one receiveth the prize. So run that ye may obtain. And every man that striveth for the mastery is temperate in all things. Now they do it to obtain a corruptible crown, but we in incorruptible. I therefore so run, not as so fight I. One that beateth the air. I keep under my body and bring it into subjection, lest that by any means, what I have preached to others, I myself should be a castaway.
Lay it aside. He says, listen, everybody is running, but what matters is not the fact. See, the goal is not to just run. What good is that? But it's how you run. It's the way in which, it's the manner in which you do stuff. And that's what a lot of the critique, especially that comes from me, is how you do it, not the simple. See, we want to be applauded for just doing it. I'm not applauding for that. I'm applauding for how the heck you doing it. That's my critique. My critique is not saying, I'm not going to, listen, I don't want any applause for being a good dad. That's what the hell I'm supposed to do anyway. Oh, you don't like me saying hell? Huh? You don't like it? Listen, you don't applaud me for being a good dad, because that's what I'm supposed to do. That's the mandate. Applaud me for going over and beyond. As a matter of fact, don't even applaud me, because watch this. I want my praise from Yah anyways. That's what I want. I don't want to get my praise from man, because if man could give you praise, guess what? They could take it away. So the joy that man gives, come on and go with me, they could take it away. But this joy that I have can't be taken away, because man didn't give it to me, and they sure can't take it away. And so when I run my race, I'm not looking for applause in the crowd. When I bust that line, I am looking for applause from Yah. And this is why so many times when I do things and say things and speak things, I could care less about the response, because I'm not looking unto you for the approval. I'm looking unto Yeshua, who is the author and finisher of my faith. Yeah, that's who I'm looking at. That's why I don't care what you think. That's why I don't care what you say. That's why I can preach the way I do. And watch this. I'm going to keep preaching the way that I am, because I know that what I am saying is pleasing the one who wrote the book on faith. He's the author. Go with me to Galatians 5, chapter 7. Galatians 5, verse 7. Somebody else can get Philippians 3:14, and then someone else can get 2 Timothy 4 and 7. Philippians 3:14 and 2 Timothy 4 and 7. And I'm going to go to Galatians 5. So someone can get Philippians 3:14 and 2 Timothy 4 and 7. And I'm going to go to Galatians 5. Galatians. I'm sorry? You have Galatians? Okay, you can read Philippians 3:14, yep. You see, everybody's not pressing. See, you can't press toward the mark when you got weight pressing on you. You see how that works? You trying to dunk the ball, but you got a helmet, you got shoulder pads, you got thigh pads, knee pads, cleats. You got all this stuff that you need to lay aside. No, it's not wrong. It's not a sin to have that stuff. But it doesn't help you in running the race that Yah has given you to run. I'm laying this foundation. Go ahead. Mm-hmm. You see that? He says it. Say it one more time. I fought the good fight, right? See, you can't. Do you know? Let me say this. Do you know what every single boxer has to do before they get in the ring and fight? Say again. Yes, but even before that, during that, they got to sign a contract. Watch this, to not have sex. Yeah. During the contract of that, until that fight is over, from the time they book that fight till it's over, they got to sign a contract for them not to have sex. Why? Because it doesn't want it. Come on, brother. Come on. Because they're going to either take it out on you or the other boxer. Bang, 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 bang. He says, Paul said, I have fought the good fight. See, you can't fight the good fight if you not, especially if you have sin that's weighing you down. But even if you have weight, that's not a sin. Galatians 5. I'm going to tell you what the weight is. I'm going to tell you what one big one is. Galatians 5, verse 7 says this. You ran well. Who hindered you from obeying the truth? This persuasion does not come from him who calls you. A little leaven leavens the whole lump. I have confidence in you, in the Lord, that you will have no other mind, but he who troubles you shall bear his judgment, whoever he is. Let me say this. Do you know one of the most biggest weights that's infecting believers and stopping and preventing them from running the race that Yah has set before them? Is what we allow to come into our minds through what we hear and then what we see. It's unfiltered. Whatever we want to see, we watch it. Whatever we want to listen to, we listen to it. Not knowing whether you believe it or not, whether you agree with it or not, science teaches and shows that music can affect your mood and your belief. That's why R. Kelly wrote the song, If I Can Believe It, then I can receive. In other words, Scripture says this. Let me give you a scripture instead of R. Kelly. Well, what did Paul say here? He says about serving the flesh. With my mind, hold on. No, it's in Romans. I serve. What did Paul say? Yes. Romans 7:25. I thank God through Yeshua HaMashiach, our Lord. So then with the mind, I myself serve the law of Yah, but the flesh, the law of sin and death. So watch this. If your mind is going to do that, if your mind is going to serve the law of sin, how much more do you think your mind is going to serve the law of sin if all you have coming into your mind, if you're rejecting the gospel, watch this, you reject the gospel, you ain't reading it, you don't get it, and then when you do get it, it's in one ear and out the other, you're not living it, how do you think you're going to fight against sin and even recognize or discern something that is a weight that could possibly cause you to sin? You won't. Then you get somebody who's laying stuff aside and they try to say, well, you need to do this. And you know what the flesh does? It rises up against that knowledge. Now imagine how you feel when you're trying to tell somebody something that's going to bless them and help them, and they reject it, and you love them. And then watch it, they're so arrogant that they think they could tell you the way it is and ain't read jack. Don't know nothing about nothing, speaking from ignorance, and they're trying to tell you who's walking in the light. And the only reason they're going to believe is you got a MD and PhD behind your name. How dare you think that white people's ice is colder than black people's ice? Oh, you won't listen to melanated people saying it, but as soon as Tom, what's the problem with these people? They won't believe what you're saying. Well, send Billy, get over here, Billy. Billy, get these people straight. That's us. We won't believe it from our own people until somebody comes in and that's less melanated and say it, and now we're loving it and eating it up. How dare you disrespect the knowledge from Yah that he's given us? Oh, yes. Yes, indeed. Well, what is a weight? I'm closing. A weight. How about this? The word weight is angnam in the Greek. It's anything that is prominent and takes precedence in your life and my life besides Yah. It's a bulk. It's something that is a mass that weighs you down. It's a burden. It's something that hinders you from running the race. Well, in other words, what's hindering you? Well, what's hindering you from running the race of faith? What's stopping you from performing at your ultimate level when it comes to the faith? Is the fact that we think we know it all already? Or is it the fact that we just rejecting God altogether? We don't care what no one says, we're going to reject him. And why? Because we think we know it all. We don't know nothing. We don't know spit. We don't even know how our bodies work. And we've been living in, I've been living in this body for 52 years, and I don't even know how it fully works. How am I going to reject something else that's greater than me? Like, watch this. I don't even read or study nothing. Then I got the nerve to sit up and tell somebody what I think. I don't give a what you think. You need to shut up and sit your butt down and learn something first. And that goes for me too. And that's why, listen, we need to start respecting the intelligence of others. Stop hating and start respecting it. Freaking haters. Is anything that is cumbersome. And see, here's the idea. The idea here is that there are others who are watching us. There are others, you know why they're watching? Some are watching because it's interesting to watch you run the race. But then there are others who are watching so that they can have ammunition to use against you because you're running a race. And you want to argue with the one who's on your side. And then side up and partner up with those ignorant folk out there who ain't got your back one iota spiritually. So the idea here is that there are people who are watching us run this race. And we're supposed to be the examples of what it means to live in this world and to walk in such a way that it shines the light of righteousness in dark places. But we're too busy putting our light under a bushel. We're not letting it shine. Husbands, let me say this. And maybe you've had this experience, Brother Kevin, because I've had this. Has anyone ever referred to your wife like you don't exist? Now, let me say this. When people do that to me and they act like Deneen don't exist, I correct that. But, I wanted to say something else. Even if it's my mama. You mean me and Deneen? Yeah, get that straight. Don't even for 1 minute think. Get that. You mean my wife, Deneen? You talking about her? Is that who you're talking about? Correcting that. Look, there's nothing that anybody can say or do that's going to cause us to be separate. Don't even address me with any foolishness in your eyes. Listen, I don't care if they're used to it. I don't care if it's brand new. It's not their responsibility. It's my responsibility to correct that butt. And guess what? I've seen that with Deneen and I. People refer to her like I don't exist. And you know what that is? That is the ultimate in disrespect, whether they know it or not. Dang it, we married. Either love it or bounce. See, we don't have that kind of light in us today. Because we care more about what people think who are living in darkness than we care about the folk who are walking in the light, preaching the truth. And that's real. You know why? Because you got all that weight on you that you can't even see because of the weight, all these weights that are weighing you down, weighing your mind down, causing you not to be able to see clearly. So let me just mention one weight that I'm going to talk about next week and I'm done. Of course, you already know where I'm going with this. And I'm going to mention something real quick. Remember the lesson. It's fruitless and what? Divided. And remember we said, David said what? He said, there is no, watch this, soundness in my flesh. What did that mean? What did we say that meant? His genitals ain't working right. Come on. Come on, it ain't working. He got erectile dysfunction. One good one and he's done. Come on and go with me here. Have you ever heard of penile atrophy? Please look that up. Penile atrophy. You know what atrophy is, eh? Muscle atrophy? That means what? The muscle in your leg and arm, it don't work, right? It's what's happened to the muscle. It hasn't been used, and it does what as a result? It shrinks. Do you know? Oh, I'm going here. One of the weights that's causing, it's not a sin, but it's a weight. One of the weights that's causing melanated men to lose 2 inches per year. Oh, y'all ain't ready for this. It's shrinking. There's no soundness in the genitalia. It's impaired. And you can research this. We're losing 2 inches in length and girth every year. You know what it's due to? An overabundance of synthetic estrogen. Oh, I'm going here. Oh, I'm going here. Oh, we can't be fruitful and multiply because there is an attack on the melanated family, and there's an attack through the manufacturers of food by putting synthetic estrogen in products that don't even need it. People who smoke marijuana. Do you know that they are now growing marijuana, growing cannabis without the male? So you know that there is a male and female dynamic in growing cannabis. They've taken the male part out, and they are making cannabis with female plants, both female plants. And guess what that produces? Estrogen. And this is why, you can look this up, this is why the argument is this, that an overabundance, see, men, we already have estrogen in our bodies, but it's balanced out by testosterone. But when there's an overabundance of estrogen in men, you know what it does? We grow breasts. You know why? Because estrogen, you may want to write this down, better learn something. Estrogen is a cellular proliferator. In other words, it produces, watch this, estrogen, it produces life and growth of cells. Cellular proliferate. It proliferates. It grows things. Now watch this. Too much estrogen, men, we're gonna have titty. We're gonna have boobs. We're gonna have what is called visceral fat, or they call it adipose fat as well. ADIPOSE, adipose fat or visceral fat. Now on a woman, that looks good. That looks good, boy. Got that round mound in the back. Come on and go with me here. Oh, we know we see it. Come on, y'all. Even women, y'all see it too. Y'all like, dang, she got a nice booty. You ain't going, you don't swing that way, but your eyes work. So it's a cellular proliferator. So watch this. The attack on the melanated family is this. They're starting with the men. So how can I stop you from being fruitful and multiplying? I'm going to put estrogen. Now, you know one of the things that has estrogen in it that we use all the time? This right here. Now, I don't care if you don't believe me. Look it up. I don't want you to believe me. I want you to look this stuff up for yourself. But see, you don't care about that right now. And you steady eating stuff, you steady putting stuff in your mouth, in your body, and steady buying stuff. And I'm gonna say this. Let me say something, parents. I'm gonna say this to you. I don't care how bad you want to make your kids happy. Dang it. Keeping your kids happy is not loving them. Listen, I ain't buying no more of that junk. Either eat it or starve. Eat it or starve. Yep. That's my perspective. Now, I'm not going to force it on you. But because I know better, because I've read and I studied it, why am I going to keep doing something, thinking and pretending like I'm loving you, but I'm really harming you? You don't hurt. Listen, love does not hurt. Didn't Paul say that in in 1 Corinthians? Love bears all things. You know what? Let me go there because 1 Corinthians. We got to get beyond 1 Corinthians 13. Though I speak with the tongues of men and of angels and have not love, I become a sounding brass or a tinkling cymbal. You know why he sounds like a sounding brass or tinkling cymbal? Because he's not speaking the truth. He's talking, but he's not telling the truth. And though I have the gift of prophecy and understand all mystery and all knowledge, and though I have all faith, so I can remove mountains, but have not love, I am nothing. And though I bestow all my goods to feed the poor, and though I give my body to be burned, I sacrifice, but have not love, it profits me nothing. Watch this. Love suffers long, is kind. Love does not envy. Love does not parade itself. It is not puffed up, does not behave rudely. Watch this. Does not seek its own, is not provoked, thinks no evil, does not rejoice in iniquity, but rejoices in the truth. If I'm speaking the truth, watch this. You should be rejoicing because I'm showing you that I really love you. Listen, buying foods that's killing our kids, that's putting them in the hospital, that's causing their penis to shrink. Talking about you want grandchildren. Well, dang it, stop buying all that crap that has estrogen. Well, I don't know what has estrogen. Well, then stop getting mad and start listening up when someone is trying to educate you. It's not love when you don't speak the truth and do the truth. Watch this. It bears all things, believes all things, holds all things, endures all things. Love never fails, but whether there is prophecies, they will fail. I want to say this, man. I can see the attack. I see the attack. And watch this. Yes, food is a weight. And again, I don't even call it food. It's products. I couldn't even get to my quotes in Black Labor and White Wealth to show the attack. I didn't even have a chance. I have to wait till next week to get to the Moynihan report. You ever heard of the Moynihan report? Huh? Do you know what that is? This is why I get so sick, y'all. I get so sick of people who don't know what the hell they're talking about, but then they want to tell me what and what really is. Ain't read nothing, haven't studied nothing. The Moynihan report, should write it down and look it up if you care to. Moynihan, Moynihan, done in 1965. They did a report on the Negro, so-called Negro family, the case for national action. Because in 1965, Black men were in the homes. What happened between 65 and 2023? Watch this. Epigenetic inheritance says the Black man is not supposed, that's what our kids are inheriting. What's this Black man doing here? Why are you here? I made a joke with Deneen, and I said, I used to joke like this all the time. One of my pickup lines was I used to see a woman with small kids, and I'd be like, baby, you need a stepdaddy? It was stupid, I know. It worked though. I got a smile out of it a couple times. Stop playing. You for real? Don't be playing. Don't be playing. But watch this. Epigenetic inheritance says that what we are teaching our children about families is that the Black man is not supposed to be there. And then watch this. If he is there, he ain't gonna have no significant role and no decision-making power at all. That's what we're teaching our children. So I joke with Deneen, I say, instead of the stepdad, it's step back dad. Step back. I got to move. I got this. Watch out. Step back. The Moynihan report says this. Watch this. Find a good juicy quote for you. You want to read something? Go ahead. Yes.
Child abandonment and out of wedlock versus skyrocketed.
Can you read one more time? Yep.
Moynihan argued that without to meaningful support to a family, Black men will become systematically alienated from their roles as husbands and fathers, which will cause high rates of divorce, child abandonment, and out of wedlock birth.
Meaningful support to his family. When his role is diminished and he cannot provide meaningful, I'm going to put biblical support to his family, he feels like Alexis de Tocqueville. Remember what he said? He said that these families, there exists indeed a profound and natural antipathy between the institution of marriage and that of slavery. A man does not marry when he cannot exercise marital authority, when he cannot provide meaningful contribution, not just a check. What did Andre 2000 say? Your baby's not a paycheck. You know what he said. Medical bills, school, I'll pay that. We can't keep this cycle. That was in 65. Alex de Tocqueville, 1700s. We're losing the battle. But guess what? In this battle, we can reverse and stop the attack on melanated families and still become fruitful and multiply if we decide to lay aside the weights that are causing us to be destroyed. Blessings. Blessings. Blessing those of you who are watching. Thank you. Blessings to you and your family too. Shalom. Shabbat shalom.